Well, it's past Labor Day now, so you know what that means.
What
It means we have to, yeah, we have to work in our movies around our trips to Spirit Halloween. I don't think that's just us. And we've got something to talk about this week in the screening room. Welcome.
Are either one of these any good?
Wow, this is a good movie.
It's pretty good.
Well, the director from yesterday doesn't think so.
It stinks.
He's sorry. You waste our film.
It's so bad.
Glad you're here for the Screening Room podcast. She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we're from MaddWolf.com, and let's start on the big screen. Yeah, we were talking about being ready for Halloween and spooky season. Here you go.
First up on the big screen, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren take on one last terrifying case involving mysterious entities they must confront. The Conjuring, Last Rites.
That's a terrible poster. I hate that poster.
But it gives you a sense of serious demon fighting action, which it takes a while to get to in this movie. Let me tell you, this is 2 hours and 15 minutes of the Conjuring.
Which is excessive.
It's a bit much, The Conjuring Last Rites. You said the fourth in the Conjuring proper films. I think we lost count of all the offshoots.
Well, we haven't. But
I have. But there have been some solid films in this entire franchise, starting with the very first Conjuring.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Good.
It was.
It really was good. And this one follows, as you probably heard by now, what was supposedly the last case in the files of Ed and Lorraine Warren. And if you look it up as I did, it is a real case, a real family in Pennsylvania. And like all of these movies, there's a lot of embellishing going on here, to say the least, to work it in to not only being their last case, but in this film, they find a way to tie it to what they say was their first case. So the movie starts with a bit of a flashback with a young Ed and Lorraine Warren, and Lorraine is pregnant with some actors who really look like Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. At first I was like, is this de-aging? No, they just got some people that, imagine that, instead of de-aging, getting people that look
actors.
like you.
Nice.
And in the case of the man, and I'm sorry, I don't have his name, kind of has Patrick Wilson's mannerisms for as long as they're on screen. So anyway, that sets it up.
Does he have the sideburns? That's my favorite thing about
the sideburns. Yeah, he doesn't yet, because it starts out in 1964 and then it jumps ahead to 1986. But the key part of the story is in the beginning of the flashback part, Lorraine is pregnant because the baby and then the grown-up Judy Warren comes to play a big part in this as they get involved with this family in Pennsylvania who say they are haunted, and it all ties together. And it does take a long time. You know, they have to set up the haunted family as they did in The Conjuring, in the original Conjuring, and did it very well.
Mm-hmm.
So you get that. But man, I think they just spend a little too much time before they get to it. And this is director Michael Chavez.
Chavez.
Michael Chavez.
He did the,
my apologies.
Devil Baby Do It, Conjuring, the last one. He also did The Nun 2. He did La Llorona, which is the one like absolute bomb in the entire sort of Conjuring.
And then
enterprise.
a couple of the writers here were involved in The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which we really liked.
It's a great movie. If you haven't watched it, go.
Yeah, and
go
then
do
also
it.
The Nun 2, right? They were involved in that.
Which, to be fair, The Nun 2 is better than The Nun.
Yeah. So expect in the early going, really the bulk of this movie, a lot of scary faces. It's not the Nun's face, but it kind of looks like the Nun's face.
She has a good face.
Jump scares and a lot of that's demonic inspired hallucinations. Is this happening? Is it not happening? Which gives you a lot of good fodder for the trailer, but you can almost guess when you see the trailer. Okay, that's going to be one of those. Oh, they wake up and it doesn't really happen. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. As it gets going, it starts to wear down a little bit. When they finally do get to that, then the payoff, I'd say it's worth it for fans of the franchise. I think if you just come into this cold, you're not a fan of the franchise, you haven't been following, you don't know the deal, I don't think this movie's going to do it for you. But if you have been and you know the trajectory and all the different movies, I think it will be a satisfying wrap up. And it definitely does feel like a wrap up.
Yeah.
Not only in the story and the bit of text that comes on screen later, and you get a lot of footage of the real couple, I think more than any of the others. and they talk about what they did, with the rest of their lives. But you also see some familiar faces from throughout the franchise, without giving too much away. And it's not an end of credits thing. It's worked in, excuse me, it's worked in organically to the story that they all come back and they would want to be there. So that's interesting too. And it's nice to see some of these, and that definitely gives you the feel of a wrap up. Okay, we're all back for a big reunion.
Yeah. This is where I have to say that as much as especially the original Conjuring, I thought was a very good haunted house movie.
Yeah.
Ed and Lorraine Warren were horrible human beings. And this is the biggest issue that I have with this franchise, is that nobody knows that. And then they're sort of, turned into this saintly couple. And I love Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, and I think they're great in this whole series. But they weren't just con artists who built people, which is, of course, absolutely what they were. They were sexual predators and horrible people. And I just always feel like...
Allegedly, before we get sued.
Right.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But...
believe the women.
It does give you... They make a nod to that at the end of the film with the text on screen. They call them controversial. So that's as far as they go for their claims.
Yeah.
And this one especially, if you look up the actual case, not nearly as fantastical as this movie makes it seem. But that's really what all these movies have done. I mean, they take the basis of something that was claimed and make it a great big ghost story. And some of them have been very successful in doing that, and scary. Yeah, definitely agree. This one just falls somewhere in the middle. It's just, if it didn't take so long to get there, then it would I think be better. But because for the bulk of this movie, I was wondering, why is this rated R? There's no reason for this to be rated R whatsoever. Okay, and then they bring some some fire and brimstone, so to speak, toward the end with the big demon battle.
And that's the other thing, James Wan directed the original. And, although I can't say that I love every one of his films, he's a very solid director. His instincts for directing horror are very, very sharp.
Agreed.
And it's nothing against Michael Chavez. It's just that they're not as sharp.
No. There's some nice sequences around the haunted house with a fluid camera, because I think there are like 8 people that live in this house that gets haunted. It's crowded. And so they have to make it, around these people and around the furniture and everything. And some of those sequences are effective. It just flat out takes too long to get there. Yeah. So many jump scares. We've seen these after so many films. We know, we get it. And there's going to be these hallucinations, and some of them are cooler than others. But let's get to the real meat when we're down in the basement or whatever, and it's really haunted, and the blood is flowing, and the demons are out there, and
2 hours and 15 minutes.
And he's got the book out. Yeah, it's just a little excessive. Yeah. So, but I would say if you're a fan of the series, this is satisfying. It's a satisfying wrap up. Otherwise, you probably will wonder what the fuss is about, and that is The Conjuring: Last Rites in the theaters now.
A comedy next. When Ashley asks for a divorce, the good-natured Carrie runs to his friends Julie and Paul for support. Their secret to happiness is an open marriage. That is, until Carrie crosses the line and throws all of their relationships into chaos in Splitsville.
Chaos, I say. This one is just now getting a wide release. It came out in a couple of big markets a couple of weeks ago, but now it's getting a wide release, getting a lot of good buzz, and it is funny and fresh. And it's from a couple of guys. Michael Angelo Covino is the director and co-writer and one of the stars. And then Kyle Marvin is the other co-writer and one of the stars. And they've done a lot of shorts. They did a movie a couple of years ago that got a lot of indie buzz called Climb, where they played a couple of friends that are basically out on this long distance bike ride. And on this bike ride, they're reassessing their friendship. So it sort of takes that foundation of how they do things and moves it to a new look at a romantic comedy. And they get a lot of help from Dakota Johnson,
who's so great
very good
in everything,
as always. And also Adria Arjona.
Oh yeah.
Who was so good in a comedy in the Hitman with Glenn Powell a few years ago. Anyway, so it's a good cast, and they've brought some good actresses to back them up this time. And they play these two couples, and the one, Adria Arjona, tells her husband that she wants a divorce. They encounter a mishap on the side of the road, and they go to help, and I don't want to give it away, but there's a funny sight gag while they're standing there trying to help. But anyway, she gets the thought that, wow, in a blink of an eye, some car accident could happen and I could die. And this isn't what I want in my life. I want a divorce. So this comes out of nowhere. So Carrie is just blindsided by this, the character's name. And he goes off to his friends for support and really a place to stay. And that is Dakota Johnson is the wife, and then Michael Angelo Covino, the director. He's the husband there. And they tell their friend, well, the reason they're happy is because they have an open marriage. Oh. And so before you know it, of course, then Dakota and Carrie, Kyle Marvin, they have a fling, and maybe it shouldn't have been so open. Of course, though, once those things come, okay, you want to have an open marriage? All right, then. And then it's just chaos. And it goes in the places where you think it's going to go, where this would be a problem, this would be a problem. And then it goes some different places, too. And by the end of it, you're almost getting a much ado about nothing kind of Shakespeare vibe, where people are trying to make other people jealous by staging something that, well, if she overhears me say this to you, and then you do this, and all that stuff comes around and comes into play, where they're trying to find out who is going to stop seeing all these other people, and maybe we settle down, and who's right for whom. And it's fun, and it is funny. And the script finds a way to develop a through line between Abe Lincoln, Walt Disney, and Meatloaf, which I laughed out loud. So things like that, just fresh takes on things, fresh takes on relationships and our way of living now. I mean, the one couple, the Dakota and Michael, they clearly have money, which is an easy out sometimes, but they're also having money problems. So that's a little bit more relatable to the average person, but it is funny. I laughed out loud, and it's definitely it's a romantic comedy, an adult romantic comedy for sure. But I mean, there's no gratuitous sex or anything like that, but what they're talking about, the subject matter. And it's just a fresh look at things, especially if you've seen The Climb and know how these two guys work and their chemistry and the way their idiosyncratic way of looking at things. You may know what to expect, but if you don't, you may want to go back and look up that movie, because they have something, just a certain way with a phrase, with a way of taking situations that we've seen in movies countless times and just put a different spin on it. And they're fun together. And of course, Dakota Johnson is always good now, and so is Adria Arjona. So yeah, this is a good one. This is one of the better comedies of the year. After, in a weird way, it's a little bit like a friendship. We saw that friendship that we like so much.
Oh yes.
Where a guy suddenly gets pushed away from a relationship.
Yes.
This is how it begins. He's pushed away from a relationship he doesn't want to be pushed away from. Then it goes in totally different directions.
Yeah,
but still
not nearly as uncomfortable.
No,
It's not uncomfortable in the same way.
but kind of the same premise.
Yeah.
The catalyst to start it off. But yeah, recommend this, especially now that it's getting a bigger release, a wider release. Should be in all the big theaters now, and it's called Splitsville. And yeah, I liked it. Funny.
And finally, on the big screen, the real life of one of America's foremost founding fathers and first Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, captured live on Broadway from the Richard Rodgers Theater with the original Broadway cast. It's Hamilton.
The most important thing, George, please don't sing. Actually, George has a great voice, but
well, it wasn't me when we did our TV gig earlier this morning, and the host started singing.
Everybody was singing. Everybody except me.
That's really the key here, because if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that I am the fan of the musicals, not her. So when she likes one, then you go, okay, must be good.
And it is really brilliant. It's a brilliant musical. It's 10 years old now. It's just as good. It's maybe more relevant today as we watch how difficult it was to give birth to democracy. That might be, I think it's got more teeth right now than any of the other times I've seen it. And it's the same film that streamed on Disney, Disney 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it was supposed to get a big screen release at the time, but because of COVID, it didn't. And so now, 10th anniversary, is getting a big screen release. And we have talked before about how difficult it is to stage a theatrical production for the screen, because you lose the energy of being in a live crowd. You lose, probably, as you've pointed out, you can't see the choreography the way that you probably need to. But also, film needs intimacy to work. You need, and that's what it does give this, is that when you're in it, when you're watching it on a stage, you can't see their faces. You don't really see the nuance of the performances because everybody is what is this talking to the back row or whatever.
Yeah. You have to project to the back row. That's the old cliche
Right.
about being on the stage.
And the way that this is staged cinematically, it is just masterpiece.
Yeah, it really is. The director is Thomas Kail, and he also directed the shows that were filmed in 2016. They filmed 2 shows and then edited different parts of them together in 2016 for the 2020 streaming release, and then now it's hitting the theater. And as we said, this is not an adaptation of the show. This is the show. But even when you look at musical adaptations for the movies that have not worked, say Chorus Line, say Cats, even by good directors, Jersey Boys, it's movement. It's the movement. Where's the movement in a musical? You've got to see, you've got to move, you've got to flow, and to let the choreography and the songs bring that energy that you lose because you're not in a live audience. And this one does a great job of that. It really does. The editing, I think his name is Jonah Moran, the editor, brilliant. Yeah. You pop in, you see the sweat, and in some cases the spittle from the actors' faces, and they're so good. This is obviously the original Broadway cast. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who created this whole thing, and David Diggs and Philippa Sue and Renee Goldsberry, Leslie Odom Jr., on and on and on. Yeah. Anthony Ramos. Yeah. The cast is, and even in the ensemble, a pre-Oscar.
Ariana DeBose.
Yes. Yeah, she was in the ensemble. So that kind of just shows you, if she's only in the ensemble, that shows what kind of talent we're dealing with here. But they're fantastic, and the show is great. And yes, of course, he took creative liberties. That's going to happen. It's not a documentary, but it's fantastic. The songs just loaded with fantastic music. The cast is great, and it's long, of course, because it's an actual Broadway show. There's an intermission, and then at the end of this particular new cut, there's a reunion of the original cast members at the end, which is very sweet. So I know this show has tons of fans. Yeah. I mean, it sells out everywhere it goes now with the touring company. We've seen it here in Columbus. But that original cast, man, you cannot beat it.
And the thing is, you're not live. You're not live with them, but everybody's going to be singing. You know what I mean? You're still having the community experience that you get to have when you go to see a live production.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. Yes. I can't imagine a better transference of musical theater to the big screen. If it's done better, I haven't seen it. I mean, this is really just fantastic. And I hope people have fun with it. Hamilton fans, I know there's a ton of you out there. Enjoy it on the big screen starting this weekend.
Got a thriller next. A retail employee infiltrates the inner circle of an artist on the verge of stardom. As he gets closer to the budding music star, access and proximity become a matter of life and death in Lurker.
Yeah. This is a interesting, unnerving little film.
Yes, it is.
It really is, especially, the latest to take a look at fame and the ways, especially now with social media, people seek to get it. Yeah.
It's a nice little thriller that I think capitalizes on the idea that we all sort of have that dream of being taken into our hero's inner circle, like just meeting your big favorite band or your big favorite movie star and being like immediately ushered backstage and becoming part of the entourage. Alex Russell wrote and directed this, who's mainly known for TV shows, The Bear and Beef. So
we haven't seen those, but we've heard they're great.
They've won lots of awards.
Right.
We know that. And what it's so sly what he does with this story, because you kind of feel like what it's going to take, what it's going to turn into, and it doesn't. I mean, it surprises you in the final direction that it goes. Yeah. But it's a great look, and it's got a couple of great performances. So Theodore Pellerin plays the starstruck the Lurker, and he has this great sort of awkwardness to him that where you feel like I should be rooting for this guy, but from the very minute that you meet him, he's manipulating things. Yeah. There's something not entirely right here.
And from the very minute that he meets his idol, his hero, this up and coming
Oliver
music artist, played by Archie.
I think it's Medekwe.
Medekwe, who we've seen in Back to Gran Turismo. I think that's the first place I first saw him. Saltburn. Yeah, he's so good in Saltburn. So he's definitely on the rise. Oh, yeah. And so he plays the music star Oliver. when he comes into the clothing store where the Lurker is working. And yeah, the Lurker just slyly, quietly, but we see it, the camera placement lets us see it, how he manipulates the situation to start a conversation with Oliver. And the next thing you know, Oliver thinks, this guy is pretty cool. Matthew is his character's name. He's pretty cool. Why don't you come hang out? Well, next thing you know, he's part of the crew. Maybe he's given ideas about the photo shoot and he's thinking that he is really in, and he has his own Instagram, and suddenly he's got all these followers because he is a friend of Oliver, and now he's famous, and he's thinking that he's got the clout.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about this movie is the way that Russell, as a director, directs your eye to something without belaboring the point. So there are certain situations where Matthew finds a way to kind of be the hero of a situation. And it's never like telegraphed to you, but you can see what's going on. So it's just fascinating the way that Russell keeps you kind of rooting for this guy. And at the same time, knowing he's not really a good person. But I think that there is a moral ambiguity among all of the cast members here that is fascinating to me, because I'm not sure any of them are really good people.
Right. And especially when you talked about how he tries to manipulate a situation to be the hero. It doesn't always work out.
No.
But it gets to the point where the story is told well enough, and like you talked about the visual cues, all it really takes is a shot of his face, and I know what he's going to do.
Yep.
I know how he's going to take advantage of this situation,
Yep.
especially with this one particular one.
Yeah.
And it's very sly like that, and very quiet in its points, but very confident.
Yeah.
And like you said, it goes to a place that I wasn't expecting.
No.
The
The resolution is pretty brilliant.
It really is. Yeah, it is. So this one, and also we will say, if you like this, you might want to look up a movie similar but different.
Yeah.
We like to give a suggestion for, because it was filmed, so much of it was filmed and about here in our home, Columbus, Ohio, about the music scene, called Poser.
Yeah, it's great. I mean,
Really
you won't
good.
regret it. It is a great movie. It's along the same lines as this, but in its own way quite different, and just a wonderful film.
Yeah. So if you like this, I think you'll like that one too. Seek that out. But yeah, we both like this one, and it's got good performances, directed well, and a sly look at a common subject today without shoving it down your throat like a lot of films do about, I got to make a movie about social media.
Yeah.
That's not completely what this movie is about, but it's certainly part of it, and how, anybody can search for fame at the expense of somebody else. And maybe when you get it, if you get it, maybe it's not what you thought it was going to be. So yeah, we like this, and it's in theaters, right? And it's called Lurker.
Next in theaters, at experimental sleep clinic Somnium, dreams are made real. Side effects may include hallucinations, confusion, paranoia, sleep paralysis, detachment from reality, lost sense of self, and permanent nightmares. Insomnium.
Is that all? That's like one of those commercials you have to add on an extra 30 seconds of reading just for the side effects.
Yeah.
Like, wow, who's going to sign up for this drug? I want it right now. But this reminded me of, I think it was just a few months ago, a movie we reviewed called Daniela Forever, which is about dreams and living in dreams and manipulating dreams. So now we're back to more dreams, but this one is more of a character study, maybe. I think
It's writer director Rachel Kane. This is her first feature, and it's another cautionary tale about chasing your dreams to become a movie star, and so sort of neon demonish, right? It's
right.
Where you can go all the way back to like Judy Garland movies. Like this is a pretty common idea of the small town girl who tries to make it big in Hollywood, and how many predators are waiting for her there. Gemma is her name, and she's played by Chloe Levine, who, if you don't know her, she's so good. She's so authentic in everything she's in. We loved her in Transfiguration and Sacrifice Game and The Ranger. She's great in everything, but she's particularly good, I think, in horror movies, because she is so authentic that it doesn't really matter how supernatural or surreal or kind of bizarre the storyline is. She roots it in reality that makes the film a lot more, I think, affecting.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I always like to see. And she's not one of those actors that goes out of the way to be, I don't know,
Glamorous.
top of mind
Oh, yeah.
or glamorous. But when you see her name pop up, you're like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And in this one, she's lonely. She wants friends. She wants success, obviously. She needs a job. And so she applies for a job at this sleep clinic that's very specific. And what they do is people pay to come in and get sort of hooked up to some electrodes and sleep there. And while they're sleeping, they are programmed to believe that they've already achieved all the success that they ever want. And then what happens is that fills them with confidence, and then they go and achieve that. And so what she asks right away is, but it's not real. And then they say, well, it's the idea of perception is reality. If you think you've done it, you've already done it. But it plays with that concept and the concept of stardom and success. And it's very interesting. And then so of course right away, well, she's losing big blocks of time. And so you're like, okay, she somehow was involved in this. This is bleeding into her life. And I think that in a lot of ways, that sort of the way that the film plays with hallucination and dreamscape and reality is very interesting. It lacks structure that I think is required for there to be a really successful resolution. But the performances are great. It's visually very interesting. And I don't think that that's enough of a knock to not enjoy the movie. I did enjoy the movie, and in particular the performances. But visually, it's very interesting as well.
Yeah, and this one is also on streaming. It's
It's
theaters
both.
and
Yep,
streaming.
it is day and date.
Day and date release. So you can see it if it's not in your area on the big screen. You can catch it on the VOD platforms, and that is the debut for Rachel Kane.
Yep.
So definitely a promising debut.
Absolutely.
And Chloe Levine and the cast, good. That's called Somnium, out there now, day and date.
Another comedy on the big screen. 3 longtime Brooklynites navigate careers, love, loss, and friendship against the rapidly changing landscape of their beloved city. In Love, Brooklyn.
Well, Andre Holland right away always gets he's so good in everything. I always remember him from Moonlight. Holy moly. That movie was so good. But he's one of those guys, even when he turns up in a small part, and this is not a small part.
No, he's the lead.
Yeah, but when he does turn up in a small part, he always just makes everything better. He's just effortlessly good. And this was reviewed at MaddWolf.com for us by Matt Weiner. And it's sort of you can tell by the title, definitely a love letter to Brooklyn and in the area, and how it's changing as people change that live in it. Yeah,
he was very appreciative of sort of how quiet the film is. And what it's talking about is really gentrification, and it's using these people's changing lives and of course the changing Brooklyn to make a comment about that. But it's also a character study about these 3 very interesting characters. And the movie lets the characterizations breathe, lets the actors find nuance in the relationships, the messiness of the relationships. It gets a little maybe tidier than it needs to be. And there is that awful sort of Sex in the City newspaper magazine wrap up essay voiceover.
Yeah.
But other than
not
that,
a fan.
And it looks great. Like the cinematography is really quite stunning. And again, it's just a beautiful love letter to Brooklyn.
Yeah,
and to the idea that community is as much a part of what makes an area, it gives it its personality.
Yeah, and one of those, Matt thought it was also one of those midlife coming of age.
Yes.
Like maybe I should stop messing around and actually become an adult in my relationships. And the director is Rachel Holder.
Yeah.
And the writer is Paul Zimmerman. And again, Matt Weiner reviewed this for us at MaddWolf.com. You can check out his review. But Love, Brooklyn is out in the theaters now.
It is.
And one more on the big screen. A girl raised in Silicon Valley in the shadow of Steve Jobs' successful return to Apple and his huge influence on her imagination, her aspirations, and relationships. Everything to me.
This one was reviewed for us by Rachel Willis. It is the feature debut for writer-director Casey Lacob. And
more of a proper coming of age.
Right, exactly. And it tells the story of a young girl's coming of age in 3 different chapters, sort of a very young teenager, an older teenager, and a young adult. And the earliest chapter is the best. It's funny, it's startling, the performances are great, and you really buy into the idea that basically this little girl's entire life, her whole worldview, comes from Steve Jobs quotes.
Because she's living, she's growing
Yeah,
up in Silicon
Silicon
Valley.
Valley.
So he's,
Yeah.
and the book of Jobs
Yeah.
is everywhere in,
Yeah.
in his philosophies, and she has definitely taken to them.
And then as she ages, that becomes less realistic, less reasonable. It almost seems more fitting because she's older, and it's very weird for this little girl to be quoting this, but eventually, but then I think in the long run, the idea is that what he was basically always saying was you have to live your life and not somebody else's, and what she's doing is living somebody else's. And so I think that it gets quite clunky as a metaphor for coming of age. But there is something of the performances in particular, especially like Judy Greer, another Judy Greer.
We'll talk about Judy Greer again next week.
She's
but
so wonderful in
every
everything.
time,
Yeah.
and she's becoming the go-to for we need a mom. She'll come in and she'll just rip us apart, rip our hearts out as the mom character. But she's been so good for so long and nameless, because we always bring up that she has a memoir out, which is the perfect title.
The best title ever.
I Don't Know Where You Know Me From, because that's probably how she lived her life forever.
Yes.
People stopping her. Oh yeah, well I don't know, but her name's Judy Greer. I think as most people know now, they should. And she's great.
Yeah, she is. And she's great in this, and a lot of the smaller characters that sort of orbit the lead are also great. The movie just struggles a little bit with what it's trying to say, but on the whole, it's enjoyable. It's satisfying.
Yeah, and you can check out Rachel's full review for Everything to Me at MaddWolf.com, and that's in theaters. So that wraps up for this week, and we're looking ahead to next week, where we've got one that we've been talking about a lot lately. Yeah. In fact, if you want a little, The Long Walk is coming out next week finally. But we had a chance to see it here recently for our other podcast, our horror movie only podcast called Fright Club. We had a special premiere, and then we got some reactions, instant reactions from the crowd that just watched it. I weeded out the spoilers and made it 15, 20-minute podcast if you want to get a preview of the film. But I think most people really liked it, including people that had read the book, which we had not.
No.
A couple of people weren't huge on it, but that's going to happen. Yeah. But I think the majority of people really liked it. So it's a long way of saying The Long Walk, which also features Judy Greer.
That's right.
Is coming out next week. We'll talk about that.
And then Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. Yeah.
So I'm hopeful because we love the original Spinal Tap, as so many people do, so much. Still just hilarious, and I'm really, really fingers crossed for that one. So we'll talk about that. Also, Baltimoreans.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's funny. You brought it up to me, and I had never heard of it. And then I saw the trailer, and I thought, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm in for this.
Yeah. Also, Downton Abbey, the grand finale. This is just not up my alley. This is just not up my alley.
Neither one of us had ever really seen
the show
at all.
I have been subjected to all of the movies, though, and I got to say, I hate rich people. I hate the Downton Abbey.
So,
I do.
You know what? I haven't seen any of it, so I should probably be the one, because that way you get, obviously the fans of the show, they're going to go, and they're probably going to, but what about someone who is coming in cold? That'll be me.
That'll be you.
And we'll see, and that's next week, and that is Downton Abbey, the grand finale. Also, one I've been hearing a lot about called History of Sound.
Yes. Yeah, looking forward to that. Motherland.
Bang Bang.
Yeah, that's Tim Blake Nelson.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, always love him. And then Man in My Basement, Willem Dafoe.
If there's a man in your basement,
it might as well be Willem Dafoe.
Because you really don't know which way that's going to go. It could be a really fun party, or it could be pretty scary.
Could be. Could be either.
Roll the dice.
That's right.
We'll find out. Man in My Basement, and it's Willem Dafoe. That's a writing prompt. So that's next week. Until then, what do you think about the movies this week? The Conjuring, Last Rites, or Splitsville? Hamilton fans? We'll talk. We can always keep the conversation going. You can find us easily. MaddWolf.com is the main website. MaddWolf Columbus on all the socials.
Yeah.
I reel them off and I forget one, but we're out there. We're out there. So please keep in touch and let us know what you're liking and maybe what you're looking forward to, because now it won't be long before we're into awards bait season. It's coming soon.
Well, don't rush spooky season.
I don't want to rush spooky season. But the cool thing though, really, horror movies anymore are such a good bet that you get them all year
You
round.
do, yeah. you
But
do.
I get it. Spooky season is the perfect time, and I'm all in.
That's right.
So-
And it's officially begun.
Yes, it's because we've been to Spirit Halloween.
That's
and
right.
If you haven't, anyway, enjoy it. Keep in touch. Be well, and we'll talk again next week. Until then, she's Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Screening Room Podcast.
See ya.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.